The sign-up form abstracts the whole process and generalizes most of the common features in the sign-up stages. All of these forms are handled by one class, sign-up form. Let's start by reviewing the generic aspect of that class and then dig into every stage. The sign-up form is a form that encapsulates common functionality in all of these forms. We use the content container to place the main UI and the south container for the links on the bottom. The constructor is protected as it's used only within this class. Only the content pane should be scrollable. Everything else should be fixed in place. This supports the back behavior, where an arrow is shown on Android and back label is shown in iOS. We give the title a different UI ID when it's in landscape mode, so it can shrink when we rotate the device. The problems link is added to the bottom of the UI inside a container, so we can add additional elements there. This is the next button that appears in each stage. The static methods below create each stage of the wizard. Now, we have all the infrastructure in place to build the individual stages of sign-up. The first stage is the terms and conditions form, which we create in the createTerms method. In this form, we have some highlighted text. For this, we will need the rich text view control that provides rich text viewing capabilities. We could use a browser component, but that might lead us down a problematic path of matching fonts, behaviors with the HTML renderer. For this case, I'd rather have something simple. The code for this form is simple. The sign-in label appears in the iOS back button. We center align the HTML since it renders into flow layout. This is pretty easy. We need a different label for the next button. We show the create name form on the next operation. I left this as a mockup. Clicking the links isn't used, but you can implement these links in any way you want. The content is in the center of the form and uses box layout on the y-axis. We add elements directly to it. Simple. Next, we need to style a lot of elements for this form. A lot of these will apply to the following sign-up form methods, so this CSS listing will be a bit longer. First, let's look at the UI IDs involved. Next, let's look at the CSS needed for this. First, we need to change two things in the constants entry. We need to add the next button UI ID to the list of caps buttons. Landscape title UI ID bool indicates that we should use landscape suffixed UI IDs for the title elements. Notice that Facebook didn't uppercase the next button on Android. I chose to do that as it fits better to the platform. I didn't do that for the problems link or other links, as that's not the convention on Android. Let's go over the new additions to the CSS now. The toolbar has a bit of padding and the right background color. The title is 4 mm with a large font. This doesn't look like the more understated Facebook font, but I think it looks better. The title command is smaller than the title, so it won't take up too much space. Back command is only used in iOS, so we keep it even smaller so it will fit with the title, which can be a problem with long text. Next, we'll discuss the landscape UI IDs. Toolbar landscape reduces the padding further in the toolbar. It also reduces the size of the title font. If we don't reduce the padding in the command and title area, the title area as a whole won't shrink. When I initially implemented this, I didn't reduce the sizes of the title command and back command styles. The font shrank, but the toolbar maintained its height. I used the Component Inspector tool in the simulator to look at the differences between the preferred height and actual height of all the elements in order to figure out which was at fault. We use a bold center-aligned font for the subheading in the forms. The sign-up process forms have an off-white color, which I took from the Android version of the wizard. Initially, I used a blue button for this, but eventually I decided to create a UID for it, as I wanted more spacing from the top. I might change next button in the future to work better in landscape by reducing margin in landscape mode. The link at the bottom of the form is relatively small and blue. With this you can run and see the first sign-up form. The rest becomes trivial by comparison.